On Friday, as lawyers for former President Donald Trump had successfully argued that he should be acquitted at his impeachment trial, which, again, he was, one of his supporters was himself in federal court in Georgia asking for his son to be released from federal custody for being part of this Capitol insurrection. Now, the 18-year-old, of course, was charged with shoving an officer during the attack on the U.S. Capitol. He, of course, also was wielding a weapon. Now, the man in question is an 18-year-old, Bruno Cua, along with his parents, and they all went to the Capitol. They all went to this, Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, and they all believed the conspiracy theory that Donald Trump had actually won the election, that Biden had stole it using Hugo Chavez, Venezuela, and what have you. And of course, the media, the deep state, Iran, they all plotted and got together to steal the election from Donald Trump, so they believe. So now they went to the Capitol and got into a little bit of trouble. Now, on Friday afternoon, Bruno's father, Joseph Cua, told a federal magistrate judge why he thought, despite the fact, of course, that he had brought his son to that rally and believed in the conspiracies that drove the attack, that he and his wife would be good custodians of their son until his trial. Don't worry, just send him back home with us. He'll be fine here. Okay, Bruno's going to be great. Now, here's the thing. It's amazing that they're making this argument that, oh, no, we're going to be good custodians, right? Because, of course, the same people who brought and encouraged their boy with unhinged conspiracy theories to become a violent insurrectionist is totally fit to watch over that same son before his trial to keep him on the straight and narrow. Interesting. Not only that, but his dad had testified that he had known that his son had brought a weapon, a baton, with him when they went to the Capitol. Because, of course, what did he think that his son was going to do with that? He brought a weapon. At least it wasn't a gun. But seriously, it's a baton. You can beat somebody with that. So now, Bruno himself is facing federal charges, including assault on a federal officer, civil disorder, and obstruction of an official proceeding in Congress, of course, and all of it was planned by the family, of course. In fact, on Parler, which, by the way, is just returned to service. Parler's back up, so now you can parlay all day, all right? Now, when he was on there, the younger Cua posted things like, President Trump is calling for us to fight. This isn't a joke. This is where and when we make our stand. And again, considering the context with him bringing a weapon there, you can reasonably deduce that he was ready to actually do some physical harm. So, again, wasn't a joke. And it was a lie as well. And now the, insurrection had, of course, failed. The parents are suddenly like, oh, yeah, our bad. Listen to this argument from the father, Joseph. He says, I share responsibility in that as a middle-aged man. I feel like I can filter a little bit of that with reality, but I felt like as a teenager, he was drinking it in and just believed it too much. I myself feel pretty embarrassed that I think a lot of us felt like this happened, and we believe these people and be disillusioned that there was no big reveal and nothing came out. It's disillusioning, disheartening, and embarrassing, quite frankly. He said he was also embarrassed that we drank in a lot of this rhetoric from so-called leaders that just never materialized. Oh man, all these people were telling us that all this stuff was going to happen, and that Q would come and arrest Joe Biden, and after we prevented the steal, and all this stuff was going to happen, and the FBI was going to arrest all the deep state pedos, and then what didn't happen? Oh, that's embarrassing. Egg on my face. Oops. I guess we all should just go home. The whole insurrection idea, kind of embarrassing now. It's funny. is that the people who were putting out these conspiracies, right, were right-wing media figures, conservative talk. We also had politicians that were up there, allies of the president, lawyers that were all talking about this. And ironically, what right-wingers call the fake news media was actually putting out true information, and what they considered to be the real media was putting out actual fake news. Funny how that turns out. And you know who the fake news was. Of course, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, Lin Wood, Mike Lindell. All of them are liars, stone cold busted, lying about all of this. Nobody should ever listen to them, period. They are fake news. But here's what the elder Cua said. There's more. He said, it was only after the attack in the Capitol, but before his son's arrest, that he backed away from the mass voter fraud conspiracies. I guess maybe that whole insurrection made things a little too real for him. I don't know. But he said he had hoped that seeing a massive crowd outside the Capitol would bolster the courage and confidence of Republican lawmakers. What? To what? To lie? To say that this election was stolen, and that we're gonna literally overturn it by stopping the certification process of Joe Biden, the rightful winner of the 2020 election, just hand it over to Donald Trump. That's literally what you were hoping for. That's what you were calling for. That's what the entire conspiracy was about. So, insurrection. Now, though, he says, well, I realize the truth. It turns out Joe Biden, he is my president. Turns out that the people that were telling me all these things were just lying to me. And I just figured it out. Oh, really? Quote, I feel like I maybe should have known a little bit better at my age. At some point, you're like, I think this is a bunch of BS. No, really? Really? But you didn't do your research, though. You didn't think about it, did you? No. No, despite all the information, factual reality being 100% available for you to go and consume, to watch and acknowledge, right? No, you chose to believe in a fantasy, a power fantasy, which has ended up having real world consequences on, a lot of people, including your own family. And now, look, here's what you need to do. You need to buck up, and you need to let your son take responsibility for his own actions. See, there's this whole thing about personal responsibility that this family doesn't seem to understand. I mean, the son did the crime. He's going to have to do the time. Because, again, it wasn't just you. He did those actions, but you are all at fault. And I don't think that you or your son deserve any sort of special treatment for this. Not at all. This entire story, this is another example of right-wingers thinking that they deserve privilege, even though they did something wrong. Do you think that they would let somebody who smashed windows during the BLM riots would, go back to let them just go back to his family? He's fine. No, go ahead. Black person, go back to your family and wait it out till trial. We're not going to put you in jail. Oh, no. Do you think that would happen? Hell no. Absolutely not. You know that the one black guy who showed up at the Capitol insurrection on the Trump side was denied bail. What makes you think that anybody on the BLM side would be treated like this? Or would even have the temerity to ask? Of course not. Why should your son be an exception? If he's a real conservative, by the way, he should take that personal responsibility. He's an adult. He's 18 years old. He made up his own mind. Yes, you encouraged him. Yes, you helped him. Yes, you homeschooled him and fed him full of all this false information. But you know what? Your son needs to learn personal responsibility, needs to realize what the real world is actually like. It turns out that when you do something wrong, there are consequences. And it just makes me think of the affluenza, all right? Where this person who, I forget his name, the affluenza kid, went and, got drunk, joyrided around, and killed 4 people. I believe he killed 4 people. And they're like, yeah, he's white and wealthy. I mean, he just never learned that there's actually consequences to your own actions. And so we shouldn't actually give him consequences. Affluenza. No, I think that's complete and utter bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They should not, they should be able to face the consequences of their actions. At some point, they should learn. You F around, you find out. That's all I'm saying. And look, it turns out that he just might actually learn, which is really good. In fact, Ryan Kareem Buchanan, a prosecutor for the Justice Department, actually moved to detain Bruno, saying home was, quote, not a suitable place for him. Quote, I don't believe that home incarceration would work because he's an 18-year-old who's homeschooled. The things that Bruno Cua had ingested, not only from the internet but from his parents, led him to the attack in the Capitol. Now, Joseph had testified that he believes some of this came from him. He acknowledged that he bears some responsibility for his son's belief structure and then the actions that arose out of those. Definite homeschool fail. But Buchanan said, but absent the internet, absent going to any rallies, his parents are still there. He went up to D.C., his parents went with him, and then he committed multiple felonies there. The idea that this is some type of learning experience for him, the danger that he poses has not been mitigated. The danger he poses, I believe, is mitigated with him in custody. That is a strong case, 100%. I agree with that, as does the Chief Magistrate, Judge Alan Baverman. Bruno, he ruled, would be held in custody until his trial. He would be sent back to D.C., where he will face trial for his crimes, or more likely, of course, take a plea deal. Now, here's what he said. Quote, we have a lot of really really dangerous people who show up here in federal court. But I have to say, this is the first time in a number of years in a non-family drug case where his parents were maybe not instigators, but aiders and abettors, and didn't take steps to stop their child from going off the rails. True. Baverman said that it was not very credible to him that Cua's father didn't see the danger of what was happening, given that he saw the Trump supporters in paramilitary gear, knew that his son had a weapon, and allowed his son to go up the scaffolding around the Capitol. Quote, I have rejected custodians far less involved in the criminal conduct of the defendant. Mr. Cua said that they were misled by leaders, while Mr. Cua is supposed to be a leader as a parent. Damn. I love this. This keeps getting better and better. So Baverman also said the attack on the Capitol was, quote, an attempt to overthrow the lawful processes of the United States government. And now we're saying, well, darn, I really didn't mean any of that. But that's what his mindset, what in his mindset continued after the 6th, when there was no evidence. Even when the ex-president said, go peacefully, we're still hearing talk from this defendant of revolution, quote unquote, I want to fight. Baverman said that based on Cua's actions both before and after his criminal activity, there were no conditions that could be reasonably assure the safety of the community. Therefore, I'm detaining Mr. Cua and I'm removing him to the District of Columbia. If only, by the way, if only all the Capitol insurrectionists would actually face consequences for what they did. Trump didn't. Trump never, Trump incited. He's not going to face any consequences, probably never will. Because even the impeachment was nothing more than a political trial. There would have never been any sort of criminal charges to come out of that. And sometimes I find that just absolutely insane, where you can do essentially what amounts to stochastic terrorism, getting people to do, violence through your words, through your rhetoric. But even some of his supporters, though, ended up getting some sort of preferential treatment. You remember Mexico Jenny? The one who asked for, hey, look, I got this fancy retreat later on. I really want to go. It's a work retreat to Mexico. And I really want to go. But this whole court thing, please just let me go. Well, they let her go. And so, well, there you go. She got to go to her fancy retreat. But at least one judge seems to understand that there is consequences for your actions, but the nerve of them asking is just another example of white right-wing privilege. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.